Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. I used to think that life was supposed to be by the book. Isn't graduating from college, getting a decent job, getting married, and having kids the so-called American dream? But who would have thought that fate always likes to play tricks on us? That night, I stood in front of the Sigma Chi fraternity, looking at the bustling crowd in front of me, still thinking about how I was going to complete the damn orientation. Who knew that at that very moment, the course of my life would completely change? My name is Kevin, and I am an operations manager for a hotel group. To be honest, I never thought I'd get into this industry. When I went to college, I was just an average business student. Nothing particularly impressive except for decent grades. If it wasn't for joining the Sigma Chi fraternity, I would probably still be the same shy boy to this day. Sigma Chi, the name rings a bell at our school. Not because of how rich we are or how good we are at playing, but because we value brotherhood and personal character. To put it bluntly, it's a bunch of guys who are a little bit idealistic getting together and trying to find a little warmth in this utilitarian society. I remember our slogan was In Hoc Signo Vinces, which means, under this sign you will win. Doesn't that sound a little middle-aged? But it's that kind of middle-of-the-road energy that brings us together as a group. It was the first weekend of the new semester, and the fraternity was having its usual orientation party. As an upperclassman, it is my responsibility to make sure that the party doesn't get out of hand, especially when it comes to taking care of those new freshmen. I stood in the doorway and watched an excited face walk in. Once upon a time, I walked through that door in the same ignorance, and now I'm a graduating senior. Just as I was rambling, she appeared. "Hey Kevin, long time no see." I turned my head and saw a familiar and unfamiliar face. "That's Olivia, my mom's best friend's daughter. I remember we used to play together when I was a kid, but then we rarely saw each other because we moved. Now she's a completely different person. No longer the ponytailed, freckle-faced little girl, but a budding college student." "Olivia? Oh my God, what are you doing here?" I asked, a little surprised. She smiled and said, "I just started school, and I'm studying psychology. I heard Sigma Chi had the most fun party, so I came over to check it out." We chatted about everything from how each of us was doing to what we were looking forward to in college life. Without realizing it, I found myself captivated by her. Not only is she beautiful, but she's also smart and funny and always has a way with words that makes me smile. We talked late that night. After the party, I offered to walk her back to her dorm. Walking along the campus path, the moonlight poured over her face and I suddenly felt my heart racing. "Kevin, you know what?" Olivia stopped abruptly and turned to look at me. "I actually had a crush on you when I was a kid." I froze, not knowing what to say. Just then, Olivia stood on her tiptoes and kissed me softly. In that moment, I felt like the whole world was quiet. It was just the two of us, standing in the moonlight, as if time had stopped. But reality is always cruel. I'm a graduating senior and Olivia just started school. There is a significant age gap and stage of life between us. Even though we both had a soft spot for each other, we both knew that the relationship was destined to face many challenges. We dated off and on for the next few months, but always carefully, afraid of hurting each other. While I was busy preparing for graduation and looking for a job, Olivia was busy adjusting to college life. Our relationship was just in a state of ambiguity. Until that summer, I have graduated and got a job in hotel management. Just in time for Olivia's summer program, we met again on campus. That day, we sat on the school lawn and watched the sun slowly set. "Kevin, do you remember the night we first met?" Olivia asked softly. I nodded. Of course I remember. It was one of the best memories of my life. Olivia takes a deep breath and says, "I know things are hard between us, but I want to be with you, truly together." I looked into her eyes, which were filled with anticipation and courage. At that moment, I knew I couldn't run away anymore. "Olivia, I want to be with you too. Whatever difficulties we may encounter, we'll face them together, okay?" She smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. We embraced as if we were trying to make up for all the time we had missed before. From that day on, we were officially in a relationship. Although I am working and Olivia is still in school, we try to find a balance in each other's lives. I would drive to pick her up from school after work, and on weekends we would go to the movies, museums, or just simply cook and talk at home. On Olivia's birthday, we had our first intimate moment. It was a wonderful and unforgettable evening as we carefully explored each other's bodies as if we were completing a sacred ritual. In that moment, I felt like our souls were tied together. As time went on, our bond grew stronger. We started talking about the future, about marriage, about what kind of home we wanted. To my surprise, our families are very supportive of our relationship. My mom even joked that she'd known the two of us would be together. And so it was that shortly after Olivia graduated from college, I asked her to marry me. That day, I took her to the place where we first kissed, got down on one knee, and pulled out the diamond ring I had already prepared. "Olivia, will you marry me?" She cried and nodded, then flung herself into my arms. At that moment, I felt like the happiest person in the world. Looking back now, those times were really good. We were young, hopeful, and felt that if we had love, we could overcome all difficulties. Unfortunately, life is never a fairy tale. The challenges we are about to face are far tougher than we thought. After we got married, we moved to Manhattan, New York, and I got busier and busier with the hotel group. Olivia, in turn, found a teaching position at a university and began her academic career. Those first few years of our lives were like honey. We rented a small apartment, not big, but full of our love. Every night, we share each other's day, discuss problems we've encountered at work, and think of blueprints for the future. On weekends, we'd go to Central Park for a picnic or take a walk on the Brooklyn Bridge, watching the sunset and feeling the pulse of the city. But the good times don't last long. As the pressures of work increased, we spent less and less time together. I started traveling frequently, sometimes for a week or two at a time. Olivia is also busy with her research and teaching, often staying up late to catch up on papers. Our interactions slowly turned into simple greetings and routine conversations. It was at this point that Olivia became pregnant. That night, I had just returned from a long flight and pushed open the door to my house, exhausted. Olivia sits on the couch, a piece of paper in her hand, her eyes red. "What's wrong, honey?" I asked, a little worried. She looked up, tears suddenly welling up in her eyes. "Kevin, I'm pregnant." I froze, not knowing what to say for a moment. We had discussed having kids before, but we didn't think it would come so suddenly. This is a good thing." I finally responded, stepping forward and hugging Olivia. "We're going to be mommy and daddy." Olivia leaned into my arms and whispered, "But are we ready?" To be honest, I'm not sure. We are both very busy with our jobs, and our financial situation is not very generous. But looking into Olivia's expectant and somewhat worried eyes, I knew I had to be strong. "We'll be fine." I kissed her forehead. "We'll face it together." The next few months turned our lives upside down. I started working hard to perform at work in hopes of getting a promotion. Olivia, for her part, has begun to adjust her teaching and research programs in preparation for the upcoming arrival of her new baby. When Olivia was 7 months pregnant, we learned that she was carrying twins. This news both excites and worries us. 2 kids means more responsibilities and expenses. I knew that I had to try harder. It was at this point that the hotel group gave me an opportunity. They are developing a new resort project and need an experienced person to take charge. This project, if successful, will bring huge profits to the company. I accepted the challenge without hesitation. However, the reality is far tougher than I thought. I had to make some compromises in order to make the project work. Sometimes I overlook some safety hazards or do some tricks on the financial statements. I feel guilty every time I do this, but I tell myself it's for my family and for my soon-to-be-born children. Finally, one day when I was so busy I almost lost track of time, Olivia called and said she was in labor. I rushed to the hospital just in time for the moment when our 2 little angels were born. Looking at the 2 little beings in Olivia's arms, I felt a sudden pang of fear. I realized that from then on, every decision I made would affect their future. I made a secret vow in my heart to give them the best life possible. With the birth of our children, our lives became busier. I continued to hustle at my job, and Olivia quit teaching to focus on her children. We moved into a bigger apartment, and life seemed to be getting better. However, as time went on, the distance between Olivia and I grew. I always came home late, sometimes even stayed out all night. Olivia doesn't say it, but I can feel her loss and resentment. One night, I was again late getting home. Olivia is still awake and is sitting in the living room reading a book. Are the kids asleep? I asked softly. Olivia nodded and then looked up at me. Kevin, we need to talk? My heart sank, knowing what might be about to happen. You've been coming home so late lately that we hardly get any time together. Olivia's voice trembled a little. I know you're trying to make this family work, but what about our marriage? What about our relationship? I was silent. I don't know what to say to that. I know I've neglected my family lately, but I feel like all I'm doing is giving them a better life. Olivia, I was about to speak when I suddenly heard crying coming from the nursery. Olivia sighed and got up to take care of the baby. I stood still, suddenly feeling a sense of bewilderment. I realized that the rift between Olivia and I was much deeper than I thought. At that moment, I couldn't help but begin to wonder if what I was doing was right or wrong. I fought to give my family a better life, but in the process, I neglected the most important thing of all, our relationship. I stood in the living room, listening to Olivia's soft, soothing voice coming from the nursery, conflicted and struggling. I knew that if I didn't make a change, I could lose what I held most dear. But how do I balance career and family? How can I mend the rift between Olivia and me? These questions are swirling around in my head, and I can't find the answers. I just knew that I had to do something, or I might lose everything. After that late-night conversation, I tried to pace myself and try to spend more time with my family. However, the work habits and dedication to my career formed over the years made it difficult for me to truly let go. The distance between Olivia and I doesn't seem to be getting any shorter because of my efforts. It was at this point that a man named Jack came into my life. He is a product manager at a well-known tech company and frequents our company for a collaborative project. Jack is young, handsome, energetic, and the type of guy who can easily catch everyone's eye. At first, I didn't care about Jack, until the day I overheard Olivia and Jack talking eagerly in a coffee shop. At that moment, I felt something break inside me. Olivia has a smile on her face that I haven't seen in a long time, and her eyes sparkle like they did when we first met. I started to get paranoid. Whenever Olivia gets a call and walks away, or is texting late at night, I wonder if she's in touch with Jack. I know it's wrong, but I can't help myself. One night, while Olivia was in the shower, I ghosted her cell phone. I know it's an invasion of her privacy, but I just can't stand the inner torment. I need to know the truth, even if that truth might destroy our marriage. One night, while Olivia was in the shower, I ghosted her cell phone. I know it's an invasion of her privacy, but I just can't stand the inner torment. I need to know the truth, even if that truth might destroy our marriage. I opened Olivia's texts and started going through her recent conversations. Most of it was just day-to-day chatter with friends, but one conversation called Jack caught my attention. I clicked on this dialogue. The latest message was from Jack. Dear Olivia, talking to you in the cafe today made me feel so happy. Your smile always makes my day. I can't wait to see you again. My hands were shaking as I continued to scroll up through their conversation. I found out that they often met at coffee shops to discuss what looked like writing projects. However, their conversations are full of ambiguous statements and emoticons. One message from Olivia reads, Jack, thanks for the advice today. You always inspire me to feel like more than a full-time mom. I feel like I'm getting back to my old passionate self. Jack replied, You'll never be more than a full-time mom, Olivia. You are a talented woman and a charismatic soul. I'm happy to help you rediscover yourself. I instantly felt the sky spinning. I always thought I knew Olivia and our marriage. But now, everything is strange and scary. Just then I heard the bathroom door open. I quickly put my phone down and pretended to be watching TV. Olivia walks out, toweling her hair and smiling at me. That smile, the one I once thought belonged to me, now felt so foreign to me. Are you okay, Kevin? Asked Olivia, probably noticing my abnormality. I forced a smile and replied, It's fine, just something at work. That night, I tossed and turned and couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying the text messages, picturing Olivia and Jack talking intimately in the cafe. I felt anger, betrayal, but more than that, deep pain. The next day, I called in sick and stayed home all day. I started looking back at our marriage and trying to figure out what went wrong between us. Was I too busy working and neglecting her? Or am I not giving her enough support and understanding to make her feel like she's losing her personal value? I'm even beginning to wonder if Olivia wasn't content to just be a full-time mom from the start. Maybe she's been longing for a career of her own and I've ignored that need. And now, when Jack shows up and gives her support and praise, she finds a new passion and purpose. Just as I was lost in my own thoughts, I received a call from my mother. "Kevin, are you okay? Olivia told me you called in sick." Mother asked with concern. I hesitated, but decided to confide in my mother. "Mom, I think Olivia might have someone on the outside." There was silence on the other end of the line for a moment, and then my mother's voice sighed. "Kevin, are you sure? Is there some kind of misunderstanding between you two?" I told my mother about the content of the text message I saw. To my surprise, my mother didn't seem too surprised. "Kevin, it's inevitable that there will be problems of one kind or another in married life. What matters is how you face it and resolve it." The mother said calmly, "Maybe you should give Olivia some space to make her own choices." Surprised, I asked, "Mom, you mean I should just accept that Olivia cheated on me?" "No, honey. I mean, you guys need to communicate openly. Maybe Olivia was just looking for some excitement or a moment of weakness. You should be working together to find out what went wrong, not blaming each other." I was silent. My mother's words made me realize that maybe the problem wasn't as simple as I thought. Perhaps I'm to blame. After hanging up the phone, I sat on the couch and thought back over the past few years. I realized that I did ignore Olivia's feelings and the bond between us. I always thought it was enough to work hard and give my family a better material life. But I forgot that love needs to be managed and marriage needs to be worked on by both parties. Just then I heard the sound of a key being inserted into the door lock. "Olivia's back." I took a deep breath and knew it was time to face reality. Regardless of the outcome, we need an honest conversation. I stood up and prepared for the coming storm. I didn't know how this conversation would end, but I knew that it would be a turning point in our marriage. I just hope that no matter what happens, we can find a solution that is good for each other. That night, when Olivia came home, a heated argument broke out between us. I confronted her about her relationship with Jack, and she denied it at first. But after I pulled out the contents of those text messages, she broke down. "Kevin, I don't know how to explain this," Olivia cried. "It's really just a friendship between Jack and I. We're collaborating on a writing project." "A writing program?" I sneered. "Then why are your conversations so ambiguous? Why are you hiding this from me?" Olivia was silent for a moment, then looked up at me with mixed emotions in her eyes. Because Jack made me feel like I still had value. Not just a wife, a mother, but myself. Her words were like a sharp blade, piercing deep into my heart. I suddenly realized that maybe I was the one who had been ignoring her needs. But that doesn't excuse her from betraying me. "What about me?" I asked in a low voice. "What am I to you?" Olivia looked at me with tears streaming down her face. "Kevin, you are my husband and I love you. But I feel like we're growing apart. You're always busy with work and I feel like I'm losing myself." We had a long talk that night, trying to sort out our problems. In the end, we decided to give each other some time and space to think about our future. After that night's argument, my insides completely fell apart. Olivia's explanation sounded like a poorly crafted lie to my ears, each word deepening my pain and anger. I couldn't accept that the person I loved so much, the wife I had always trusted and depended on, would betray our marriage. For the next few days, my emotions felt like a volcano ready to erupt. I began to go over every detail of the past few years, trying to pick up on the clues of Olivia's betrayal. I found myself becoming paranoid and began to question every moment we spent together. All those memories that were once good are now sharp blades that pierce my heart. I couldn't bear the pain, much less accept being a betrayed wretch. Anger and hatred consumed my sanity like a monstrous wave. I was determined to get revenge, to make Olivia and Jack pay for their betrayal. I began to carefully plan my revenge. First, I need more evidence. I contacted an old friend, Tom, who is a private investigator. I asked him to watch Olivia and Jack's every move 24/7 and record all their interactions. Kevin, are you sure you want to do this? Tom asked me, concern in his tone. Sometimes, knowing too much can hurt you. I replied coldly, I need to know the truth, no matter how brutal it is. Tom sighed and began his work. Every day, I received a detailed report of Olivia's itinerary, where and when she and Jack met, and even every eye contact and physical touch between them. Looking at those photos and videos, my heart felt like it was being repeatedly lynched. I saw Olivia smile sweetly at Jack in the cafeteria, the smile that was once only mine. I see Jack caressing the back of Olivia's hand on a park bench, and Olivia doesn't flinch. Each image was like a sharp knife, stabbing deep into my heart. But I didn't break down. On the contrary, the images strengthened my resolve for revenge. I began to formulate a well-thought-out plan to destroy Olivia and Jack's life in every way. First, I started spreading the word in our social circles. Instead of outright saying Olivia cheated, I took a more subtle approach. I'll be at a friend's party and accidentally mention that Olivia's been going out a lot lately and meeting new people. I'd say in a slightly puzzled tone, have you guys noticed that Olivia has been acting a little different lately? She rarely seems to be home anymore. This ambiguity quickly aroused curiosity and speculation among friends. I watched them mingle and whisper and knew my plan was starting to pay off. Next, I started on Jack. Through my contacts in the business world, I learned that Jack's company was bidding on a big project that happened to be related to our hotel group. I contacted the CEO of Jack's company and implied that if they wanted to win the program, they'd better get a new project leader. Why? The CEO asked. Jack is one of our best employees. I gave a meaningful smile. Let's just say I heard some interesting things about Jack. Interesting things. I'm afraid that if these things were to become public, it would have a considerable impact on your company's reputation. The CEO is a smart guy, and he quickly understood what I was implying. It wasn't long before Jack was moved out of his original position and put in charge of a small, unpromising project instead. I felt an inexplicable pleasure watching Jack's career start to go downhill. But that's not enough. What I want is to destroy them completely. I started posting suggestive posts anonymously online. I didn't name them directly, but described them in some detail so that those familiar with us could guess who the post was talking about. I described a cheating wife and a home-wrecking third party, with some blurry but recognizable photos of Olivia and Jack. The posts quickly caused a furor online. People started speculating and talking in the comments section. I looked at the vile comments without a trace of guilt in my heart, only a thrill of revenge. Olivia quickly discovered the posts. She came to me in a panic and asked if I knew anything about it. I don't know, I said, feigning surprise. That's terrible. Who would do that? I sneer inwardly at Olivia's horrified and pained expression. That's the price of betrayal, I guess. But my revenge isn't over yet. I contacted a couple of friends in the media and told them the breaking news. I provided photos and videos taken by Tom, as well as testimonies from people who know. Soon, Olivia and Jack's scandal was making headlines in gossip magazines and news sites. I've watched Olivia hide in her house every day, afraid to leave the house. And I've watched her cry and explain to me that it was all a misunderstanding. But my heart has grown cold. My plan for revenge is like a precision machine, with every cog working perfectly. As time went on, I began to see my efforts bear bitter fruit. Olivia's life is gradually falling apart. Friends who were once inseparable now shunned her. Every time I see her sitting alone in her house, tearfully scrolling through her cell phone, I know she's reading messages that are full of condemnation and mockery. Her once active social media accounts are now horribly quiet, and the occasional update or two are always accompanied by tons of negative comments. One day, I accidentally heard Olivia crying in her bedroom. She's on the phone with her best friend Amy. Amy, please believe me, it's not what you think. Olivia choked out. I'm sorry, Olivia. I don't know what to believe anymore. But my husband won't allow me to associate with you anymore. You know, for the kids." Amy's voice was apologetic, but also determined. Olivia's cries become more painful as the phone hangs up. I stood outside the door with no pity in my heart, only a cold sense of satisfaction. That's the price of betrayal, I guess. Meanwhile, Jack's situation is even worse. I've heard he's not only lost his job, he's lost his family. His wife, Sarah, moved out of the house with the kids as soon as she saw those news reports. She is said to have contacted an attorney to file for divorce. I learned through some sources that Jack is now drinking all day, and his life is a mess. His once polished image is gone, replaced by a disoriented, unkempt drunk. Watching Olivia and Jack's lives fall apart gave me a twisted thrill. I know that my behavior could destroy our marriage and our family, but I don't care anymore. In my opinion, the marriage ended the moment Olivia betrayed. Finally, one rainy morning, Olivia came to talk to me. She looked much older, her eyes full of exhaustion and despair. "Kevin, I can't go on like this," she said softly. "I've decided to move to Seattle. A distant relative of mine is there and is willing to take me in for a while." I pretended to be surprised. "Why? Is it because of those rumors? We can clear it up together." Olivia smiled bitterly. "You know that's not just a rumor. Kevin, I know what you did. I don't blame you because I did hurt you. But I can't go on living here. I lost all my friends, I lost my job, I lost everything. I need a fresh start." I looked at her in silence, my insides filled with conflicting emotions. On the one hand, I felt smug that my revenge plan had succeeded. On the other hand, I felt a twinge of intolerance at seeing someone I once loved so much in such pain. But this hint of intolerance was quickly drowned out by anger and hatred. "If that's your decision, I respect it," I said coldly. "I'll contact a lawyer and prepare the divorce papers." Olivia nodded, tears streaming silently down her face. She turned toward the bedroom and began to pack. I stood in the living room, watching her busy figure, and suddenly realized that this might be the last time I ever see her. The next day, Olivia caught a plane to Seattle. I didn't go to see her off. I just watched the whole process of her leaving from the comfort of my home. As the door closed for the last time, I felt an emptiness. My plan for revenge worked, and I destroyed Olivia and Jack's lives just as they had destroyed mine. But as I stood in the empty house, I realized I had paid a huge price as well. I lost my wife, the family we built together, and maybe even myself. For the next few days, I mechanically processed the various paperwork for my divorce. My attorney told me that I have the overwhelming advantage in property division considering the circumstances. But that doesn't matter anymore. Money and possessions couldn't fill the emptiness inside me. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the happy times Olivia and I used to have. I would wonder if I made the right decision and if it was worth it. But every time I think of an image of her and Jack together, the anger and hatred takes over again. My revenge was over, but my life seemed to follow suit. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that I can never go back to the way things were. This is the path I have chosen, sweet or bitter, and I must walk it alone. After the divorce was finalized, I felt like a walking corpse. Every corner of New York is filled with Olivia's shadow, and I can't continue to live here. I needed a fresh start, a place where I could reconnect with myself. I decided to move to Los Angeles. Maybe it's the Hollywood glamour that draws me in, or maybe it's just that it's far enough away from New York. I quit my job with the hotel group, packed a simple bag, and set off on a plane west. The sun is brighter in Los Angeles than in New York, but it's also hotter. I rented a small apartment in a normal neighborhood near Hollywood. Every morning, I see people of all shapes and sizes hurrying to the set or to auditions, the desire for their dreams shining in their eyes. It was not a good time at first. I would often wake up in the middle of the night dreaming about Olivia and Jack together. Even in my waking moments, I can't help but think about my revenge plan and the look in Olivia's eyes as she leaves. I began to question my behavior and question my decisions. One day, I met an old man in a neighborhood cafe. He noticed that I was always alone, my eyes staring vacantly out the window. "You look preoccupied, young man," he said kindly. "Care to talk to me?" Perhaps it had been too long since I had confided, and I ghostly poured out my story to this stranger. I talked about how Olivia and I met and fell in love, about our marriage, and finally about betrayal and revenge. The old man listened quietly, then said, "You know, young man, there is only a thin line between love and hate. You are so angry precisely because you love her so much." I froze. The thought had never crossed my mind before. The old man continued, "But true love is not possession, but understanding and forgiveness. Have you ever thought that maybe Olivia didn't mean to hurt you? Maybe she's just searching for her own value and meaning?" I was silent. Indeed, in my anger and revenge, I never really tried to understand how Olivia felt. I only saw her betrayal and ignored her possible pain and struggle. From that day on, I began to reflect on my behavior and my understanding of marriage and love. I realized that I was treating Olivia as an appendage to myself rather than an individual. I expected her to live her life exactly as I imagined, while ignoring her own needs and dreams. I started trying to forgive Olivia, and I started trying to forgive myself. It hasn't been easy, and sometimes I still feel anger and pain. But I know that only by letting go of my hatred can I truly be free. During my time in Los Angeles, I began to rediscover myself. I found I had a keen interest in the movie industry and began studying screenwriting. I wrote my story as a screenplay, and while it's still rough, the process allowed me to examine my experience from a spectator's point of view. Slowly, I began to make new friends and started to get involved in some social activities. I learned to listen to other people's stories and to understand different points of view. I have found that everyone has their own struggles and pain, and that understanding and empathy is the cure. One day I received a letter from New York. It's from Olivia. My heart raced and I hesitated for a long time before opening the envelope. In the letter, Olivia says she's starting a new life in Seattle. She got a job as a teacher and began to reestablish her social circle. She said she had forgiven me and wanted me to forgive her too. Finally, she wished me luck in finding true happiness. Reading the letter brought tears to my eyes. I realized that we all grew through this experience. We've all made mistakes, we've all paid the price, but we've also all learned to forgive and understand. I wrote back to Olivia with my best wishes. For once, I'm speaking from the heart. Time flies, and it's been 3 years since I came to Los Angeles. My first script was bought by a small production company and is now being prepared for filming. I also met a girl named Emma who is a new actress. We started dating, and although it was slow going, I learned to appreciate the moment and to respect each other's thoughts and decisions. Looking back, I no longer feel pain and anger. I am thankful for that experience because it allowed me to grow and learn the true meaning of love. I realized that true love is not possessive or controlling, but understanding, respect, and support. Now I am no longer the stubborn and easily jealous Kevin. I learned to listen, to understand, and to let go. I know there will be challenges ahead, but I believe that by keeping an open and kind mind, I will be able to face them all. Under the Hollywood sun, I felt the power of renewal. I know that this is just the beginning of a new chapter in my life, and I am ready for every possibility that lies ahead. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.